Welcome to the Sales Leader of Influence show. For sales leaders who lead with soul, spirit, and spine. In a world obsessed with tactics, this is the show for those who know leadership is personal. And here's your host, Bernadette McClelland.
And welcome to this week's Sales Leader of Influence show. And I just want to start by saying, hey, thank you so much. I've had some really great feedback, and we all love great feedback. And what you've also shared with me is what you've been getting out of the show. And what's really important to me is not just what you've been sharing with me, but what you've allowed me to share with you. And I know a couple of you have said, hey, are you going to get any guests on? And the answer to that is yes, I am. In fact, I've got a really cool guest coming on next week. But the reason why I haven't so far, and we're up to episode 14, is because I've wanted to probably share or find my own voice, because I want this to be a little bit different than the usual sales leadership forums or formats, and for no other reason than with my voice and the lane that I really love to play in. It's unique, it's different, and I think that sales leaders out there today, we're in such a kind of a weird space at the moment that we all bring something of value to the table. And so this is my voice, I guess. And I just wanted to have a series of you getting to know me and me getting to kind of understand a little bit about you. And so those of you that have been sharing feedback and ideas, I just want to say I'm really grateful and thank you so much. So really wanted to just kind of kick off today's show with that. And so kicking off today's show is, I think, a timely topic, and that is why deal coaching is not enough today. And it kind of dovetails into the times that we're in, and that is the fact that we are not in, you could say, linear times. And let me explain what I mean by that. There was an acronym a while back, a time that we were in, and it was referred to as VUCA. Now you've probably heard that term, and VUCA came from the Cold War, and it stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And of course, that related to the era of the Cold War, and that acronym was brought into the business vernacular, and so business was referred to as VUCA because it still is a little bit, but it's been superseded now by another term, another acronym, which is BANI, B-A-N-I, and BANI stands for brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. And so you kind of wrap that around the times that we're in right now, and you can see why that term has now come to the surface. So why I'm sharing that with you today and how that links into sales leadership and the sales world and the times that we're in is really, I'm pulling out of that the thread of non-linear. And why I'm pulling that thread out is that from a sales leadership perspective, when we're talking about coaching, is that typically coaching has been very much a linear process. It's like, okay, where are we up to? And then what have you done there? And then what are you going to do next? And what has he said? And then where is it going? And then until we get to the end. So it's been very much a linear process. However, you couple that with the fact that numbers are not being made today, a whole heap of other uncertainties that are being thrown into the pot, and sales leaders are scratching their head and they're saying, I don't know, things with me aren't working, things with the team aren't working, the team are out there in the field, things with the buyers aren't working. So this whole linear process that years ago used to kind of just make sense is not making sense now. And the other way to look at it is that you may be spending so much time working on something, putting a ton of effort into something, and it just trickles. So it just kind of doesn't add up. Or you might just be putting so little into something, thinking nothing's going to happen, and lo and behold, you win something. And so things just aren't kind of linear today. And how that plays out with you as a sales leader is that you can't afford today to simply continue on the way that you've always done it in the past. And sure, I could have come along today and said a couple of different cliches. You know, we've always done it that way, or, you know, anything like that. But what I want to bring home, and those of you that know me know that I talk about deliberate disruption. And what that means at its core is that whatever we know to be what we've always done isn't enough today. That we really do have to shift and disrupt the way that we think, the way we feel, the way that we act, because if we don't, something or someone will do it to us or for us. And your sales team are experiencing that out in the market. And you as a leader are possibly experiencing that yourself with your team. So, where am I going with this? That deal coaching is not enough today. And so if you think about the fact that your salespeople really do know what to do, but something is stopping them. And what is stopping them? So if you think of strategy, strategy is going to always move a pipeline because it just does. It's strategic, it's strategy. But what is going to move your salespeople? And so we know that part of business is problem solving, and part of sales is going out there and helping solve problems. That's what we do. Even the Jobs of the Future, the World Economic Forum, says that complex problem solving is one of the top 3 skills that we need to be able to really hone and have under our belt moving forward. So problem solving is a big thing. However, we see a fire, what do? We grab a fire hose and we put the fire out because we want to fix the fire. But sales leaders, it's the same thing. You see a problem, you want to fix the problem, so you fix the problem. And in many cases, what you're doing as a sales leader is you are actually teaching dependability by fixing. You're not teaching responsibility. And coaching will help you build responsibility with your team and not dependability. So what I want to share with you today are 3 reasons. There's probably 4 or 5 that I could share, but just for time, I want to share 3 reasons with you today why I believe that deal coaching, which is very linear, is not enough today. And why I believe that you need to be able to, pitch and catch, or just kind of be able to kind of turn on a dime a little bit more, or add more to your coaching skill set than perhaps what you have today. And I guess within the Sales Leader of Influence method, which is a method that I've created based on 5 levels, and woven throughout all 5 levels, threaded through that is the whole philosophy of deliberate disruption. At every level, we need to focus on how we can deliberately disrupt the way that we think and feel and act about certain things, such as if we were to look at the beginnings of that, how do we actually manage ourselves and show up congruently? And the next level is how do we actually motivate our team from a connection perspective? How do we mentor them from a pipeline and role clarity perspective? And then how do we mobilize them? And so mobilizing our team is what we need to do. They know what to do. How do we mobilize them? And then, of course, the next one up is how do we really pull in opportunities, magnetize opportunities so it's not a push, it's an actual pull. And so they are the 5 levels of the Sales Leader of Influence method. And what I want to focus on today, I want to pull some parts out of the 4th layer, which is you being able to mobilize the team by you as a leader showing up in a state of conviction so that you can coach not just the deal, but also the human. Because that is the missing factor that is going to allow you to be able to pitch and catch that little bit better rather than just being linear. So this is going to enable you to be non-linear. So starting off with the first reason why I believe that deal coaching is not enough today. And that is the fact that deals do not die in the CRM. Okay, all your deals are in the CRM, and where do they die? They do not die in the CRM. They die in the salesperson's head. And you look at any win-loss review, a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, Bernadette McClelland out of Sydney, Australia, great guy, Irish guy. His whole business now is focused all around win-loss reviews, and the statistics that he has will show you that any loss does not happen at the end of the deal. It's not CRM based. And any win is absolutely the same. So when we look at deals and where they die, especially if you look in, at the climate that we're in today, and you look at the uncertainty that we're in, you look at buyer hesitation, you look at the scrutiny that salespeople are under from stakeholders, you look at all of this being the norm, and then you look at the fact that salespeople, they're not just navigating objections like was the norm a few years ago. It was like salespeople would just have to worry about, oh my gosh, how do I overcome objections? There's so much more today. Politics, there's risk factor, there's so much more. And they're also having to navigate imposter syndrome. They're also looking at rejection fatigue. There's still those salespeople out there that are having to cope with money beliefs, authority beliefs, their whole belief system about the fact, oh my gosh, I'm a salesperson. I'm still coaching those beliefs, and they are so big out there. So all of this, when it comes to emotional triggers that are impacting their presence in the marketplace or inside a buyer's, inside sitting opposite a prospect, and their ability to be precise in their conversations. So my question there is, if you are only coaching a linear process and you're only coaching the deal, then who's looking out for all these other factors that are actually impacting the lack of activity or the lack of results? And so I'm going to suggest to you that perhaps one of the areas that you might want to look into is are you conscious of the beliefs or the stories or the loops that your sales team are experiencing? in the field, in their conversations? Are you noticing behaviors that are repeating over and over again? And how are you coaching through those? Because the beliefs and the behaviors and the business outcomes are all part and parcel of the same thing. And deal coaching is not enough to kind of tease those apart. Transformational coaching is. And so I'm going to kind of suggest that you look at where the real bottlenecks are. So that's point one, is the fact that deals don't die in the CRM. Point number two is that your salespeople are no longer motivated by metrics. And you might think, well, are they? Were they ever? I think they were. I was. However, the stress levels weren't what they are today. You know, competition is really healthy, and having league ladders and having, showing the results and where people's, statistics are, and that's all good and that's all healthy. However, where we are today is numbers. Sales is always going to be a numbers game, but it is not just a numbers game. And this is where I want to really drill home that if you are a leader and you are making sales all about the numbers, you're missing the boat. Sales is not just about the numbers. It's a narrative game. It is a story game. And what I mean by that is you've got to realize that your salespeople are no longer motivated. They're not motivated by pressure. They're absolutely not motivated by pressure. I found out this week that there is a couple of businesses that are not making their numbers and haven't done for a couple of years, and yet they are still increasing the targets yet again. Now, there's nothing motivating about that. However, if you were able to first of all, know what motivates your salespeople, really know what motivates them, and align purpose with their outcomes, that will go a long way, to retain them, but also have them wake up on a Monday morning and maybe want to come to work and want to pick up the phone. And so anybody who continues to kind of track pipeline as the main motivator, you're contributing to churn. And so the other part of this is quotas. Quotas, yes, absolutely, we need quotas and all the rest of it. If you're focusing on quotas all the time, I'm going to suggest that you swap that a little bit and start looking at clarity, because your salespeople, there are people out there that tell me, I am too scared to actually ask for clarity. And we're talking about VUCA and banning now, remember. I'm too scared to ask for clarity on X, Y, and Z because they think I'm supposed to know, and if I ask, then it's going to show me up for something, and I don't want to be in the firing line. I don't want to raise my hand. Now, that's ambiguity for coming in. You don't want that, because now we've got perceptions that could be misperceptions. And this is why role clarity is super, super important. So metrics is a key part of that. So as a leader, I would encourage you to coach with your team, not to coach at your team. And so when we look at transformational coaching, rather than just linear type deal coaching, when you've got the ability to understand your team's personal drivers and you can match that with the business's performance outcomes, you're going to create an environment of trust and loyalty. So what we're looking at here is the motivating factor is more relationships being the currency that is actually going to create the resilience that your team need moving forward. And so understanding that if you're a leader that is just kind of drumming home numbers all the time, that is not going to motivate your team. So really helping them and getting clear on what matters to them is key. That's why I'm saying that deal coaching alone is not enough. And the third one is AI based. So we know that AI is replacing tasks, but it is not replacing thinking. It is not replacing feeling, and it is not replacing leadership. And in this age of automation, what is it that separates the high impact sellers from the average sellers? And it is not data entry. It's not data entry. It's not knowledge. It used to be knowledge in the knowledge economy. It is not product knowledge. It's not necessarily hard skills. It is things, it's qualities. And it's things such as presence. So the person who walks into the room and is totally grounded and walks in with conviction, they're the ones that are going to own the space. And remember that money follows energy. So how are you as a leader going to contribute to helping your salespeople show up with conviction? And you must have to walk your talk as well. So you must need to show up with conviction. How are you going to help your team regulate their emotions? And what I mean by that is anybody who's ever walked out of a sales call and got in the car or got off a Zoom call and gone, oh, geez, I forgot to ask that question, because you were either too busy talking, weren't listening, or whatever it may be, because your emotions, you hadn't regulated them. And so these are nuances that are all part of your team showing up and owning the room. And that continues on to your team having the courageous conversations. And when I talk about courageous conversations, I'm talking here about being able to push back or ask what they call the hard questions. So, which there are no such thing as hard questions, but the ability to be able to push back with respect. And I refer to that as commercial empathy. I know Daniel Goleman talks about 3 levels of empathy: cognitive empathy, emotional empathy, and compassionate empathy. But I've coined a 4th one, which is commercial empathy. And that is pushing back with respect on a buyer when you feel that there's something more that you can say. How do you teach that as a leader? How do you coach that? And the other part of all of this is how do you coach your team to actually pick up on patterns, behavioural patterns of buyers, or decision-making strategies of buyers. So who's doing this at this level to help your team front up out there in the world to have a competitive advantage? So deal coaching won't do this, but transformational coaching will do this. And so I guess what I'm wanting to share with you here is that what you're doing right now is perfect and is what we've always done. And to keep doing this, but to augment it and to add another layer, does it mean you have to do more work? No. Your time at the moment is precious. It just means that you may even be able to shrink the time that you spend with them because you're getting to the crux of the matter so much quicker. And so in today's economy, for you to be able to keep great people and to be able to help them self-correct themselves in real time, and to be able to do that out there in the field and have that competitive advantage, that is worth so much. And so I wanted to share that with you today. And that's why I also want to be able to open up 10 spots, and it's in my Sales Leader as Sales Coach program. I'm super lucky because I have two angles. I have spent so much time in corporate sales executive, enterprise sales roles, and I also have the psychology side of having diploma in all things coaching, working with Anthony Robbins is from a psychology side of things, coaching with Harvard. So I've merged two worlds. This is my wheelhouse, and I'm absolutely rapt to be able to bring the Sales Leader as Sales Coach to the market, because the timing is perfect. So if you are a sales leader and you want to be able to lift your pipeline velocity, if you want to be able to increase your deal confidence, and if you want to be able to improve your forecast accuracy, and you want it driven by transformational coaching, not just transactional or tactical coaching, then I would love for you to message me. Just message me the word sales coach. Just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way. And let's have a conversation, and I'll walk you through how you can do that. But I think it's really important. I think the timing is right now, and I'd love to be able to co-create with you. So look, on that note, have an amazing week. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, please follow, like, and do all those wonderful things. If it's on YouTube, subscribe to my channel. And here on LinkedIn, I'd love to see you this time next week, and may have a special guest. So have an amazing day, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching the Sales Leader of Influence show with your host, Bernadette McClelland. See you next Wednesday live at 5 o'clock Eastern.